Welcome to De Montfort University's industry event. I'm really delighted to be able to welcome you to this online event this morning from the School of Fashion and Textiles at De Montfort University. We are really excited. I've got a list here of speakers from the School of Fashion and Textiles and also from our local industry, who are going to present a really fantastic range of talks this morning. It's been such a year for us all, as we all know, and at De Montfort School of Fashion and Textiles has been working hard. We have a degree show up and running with our undergraduate students all displaying their final outcomes from across all the undergraduate courses in design practice, so that's fashion, textiles, fashion textiles, contour fashion, footwear, fashion communication and styling, and fashion buying. We've been working hard with our postgraduate students and our research activities. There is an awful lot going on. The Business of Fashion have noted that we are one of the top schools for learning opportunities and for student experience. And I think if you can get down to the degree show here in Leicester, you'll see that in action. So this morning we have our first speaker, who is Paul Alger Mbe, who is the Director of International Business at the UK Fashion and Textiles Association. And Paul is going to set the scene for the talk for this morning's sessions with an industry perspective. And then we will start with our first set of speakers from the school and from our industry partners. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the morning.
Thank you, Carolyn. Good morning, everybody. My name's Paul Alger, and I'm Director of International Business for the UK Fashion and Textile Association. And I'm delighted to be with you all this morning to talk about the very important topic of generating a bright, sustainable future in fashion and textiles. This event is being recorded, so obviously there are going to be lots of interesting comments today, and I know that people are going to be watching this live. It's being streamed, and also I believe there's the opportunity to for people to watch this back. So I wanted to thank our host, first of all, De Montfort University. My very dear friend Gillian Proctor from the Contour Fashion course and I have worked very closely together over the years. And De Montfort University is a wonderful example, one of a very few examples of how academia, how education, how universities can sit very actively and be a very active part of the industry that they support. I can't think of too many other examples where that works quite as well. And it's very important for academia to be involved in the topic of sustainability in the fashion and textile industry, because academia can shine a light on how the next generation can play a role at the heart of an industry. Academia can help to set an agenda, pushing boundaries, setting and raising standards, something I know that will come up in the conversations today, and also shining a light on the best and the worst of what the industry is doing and setting an example for what we should be doing moving forward. And I know that at the UK Fashion and Textile Association, I've worked there for well over 30 years now. This is something that has always been a very passionate part of the work that we do, bringing the government to, bringing the industry together, representing the industry to government, shining a light on things that perhaps don't work quite as well in setting a standard. And one of the things that trade associations always try to do is to bring everybody together. And this event today is attempting to bring everybody together, because ultimately, if we're talking about sustainability in fashion and textiles, it is about us all. We all bear some responsibility for how we got to here, even though many of us may have spent very long periods of our time trying to slow down the damage done to the planet and our communities by cheap, fast fashion manufactured halfway around the world, by people we do not know, people we cannot see. this is something that we are all partially responsible for. And some of these people, as we will talk about today, are closer to home than we would like. So setting standards, maintaining standards on both the goods that we manufacture in the UK, hopefully sustainably and responsibly, but also that we import sustainably and responsibly is really important. And consumers have a very, very important role in that. I've spent probably the last 30 years of my career probably blaming retailers and buyers in particular for not doing their homework, not supporting British designers, not getting behind the sustainability and the ethical fashion agenda. But I've come to realize more recently that actually the customer, the consumer is king. So all the while consumers are asking for this year's fashion at a fraction of the cost of last year's fashion, then we are going to find that retailers are going to be subject to the whims and the diktats of consumers. So in addition to talking to ourselves as an industry, which we have to do, and as academia will also be doing, we also need to be talking to those people outside, those people who are consumers of the goods that we design and produce. And it's only going to get more challenging because Brexit gives us additional costs. So over the next year to 18 months, we're going to see that the cost of customs clearance, higher fuel costs, for example, if we're going to be manufacturing goods in China and the Far East, are going to cost more and more to import into this country. So this is not something that's going to go away anytime soon. And as a piece of background, fashion is probably the only industry where consumers have expected costs to go down systematically over the last 10 to 15 years, at a time when virtually everything else in our economy has become more expensive. I think we need to think a little bit about where cheap has got us. There's an old expression that I trot out quite often, which is those who live by cheap die by cheap. And I think if we can understand a little about where cheap fast fashion has got us, then that will be an interesting place to start. In our constant quest for the cheapest needle, that's the term that we use in the industry, we've exported a lot of our jobs. We've also exported the social costs and the pollution that goes with it. And we've hidden some of the pollution. For example, we may not be polluting the skies in Leicester, Nottingham and Manchester, but we're certainly doing that in China and in large parts of Asia. Only 1% of fast fashion is still in its primary use 6 months after it was manufactured. So the presumption is that a large part of it is going into landfill. That is clearly not sustainable. British people, and we are, I believe I'm right in saying, the fourth or the fifth wealthiest nation in the world, cannot generally afford or do not decide to afford the goods that we manufacture in this country. That cannot be sustainable. In the UK and the rest of the West, we've also seen the social costs closer to home of cheaper, faster fashion. We've seen the costs of sending our jobs into Asia, with generations and whole parts of the country feeling left behind. And in the most extreme cases, we've seen very difficult social problems emerge as part of that move to export jobs to faraway parts of the planet. And all of this has been done in a quest to enable people to buy 2 t-shirts for less than a fiver. That is a very dangerous strategy moving forward. We have to find ways of addressing it, because we have already seen that leaving people behind actually creates social problems closer to home, and is directly responsible for that feeling of disengagement, people feeling that they've been forgotten, people feeling that they have no hope, no future. And obviously politically, and you can certainly see that with the Trump campaign and indeed some of the conversations around Brexit, for example, that has a very direct impact on our politics. In those countries where cheap fashion is made, they are under huge pressure not to raise salaries or working conditions. And again, when we look at places closer to home, I know we will be talking later on today about some of the issues with a very small minority of businesses in Leicester that have found themselves under the same pressure not to raise prices, not to raise standards. We need to be aware who is driving that. The consumer, again, is driving that. And we have to, I think, looking forward, the challenge is to make sure that we demand from UK employers the living wages, the safe working conditions that we all expect to see, but increasingly that we try to find ways of making sure that the goods that we import from outside the UK meet the same standards. There is no point in demanding UK manufacturers to meet minimum standards if you can then import cheap fashion from places around the world where those same standards are not valued, are not upheld. So this is very much about a levelling up agenda, and I hesitate to use that term, but bringing people up to a standard rather than dumbing things down to a lower standard. And I think there are some reasons to be hopeful and optimistic. The next generation, the younger generation, are generally much more interested in sustainability, or my definition will be being kind to the planet. But I would also add to this, and this is something very close to our heart at UKFT, when we talk about sustainability, that's being kind to the planet. But we also have to be kind to the people that work in this industry, wherever they are. So being kind to people, ethical fashion is, by our definition, I would say, very much part of the sustainability conversation. And countries in the West in particular need to be very careful that we make sure that we keep driving home that message that sustainability is being kind to the planet, but it's also being kind to the people. We do have to make sure that our fashion and textiles are sustainable, and we have to be very mindful of who bears the social cost for manufacturing goods. The internet potentially creates the possibility for brands, particularly British designer brands, and the London Fashion Week crowd. I know many of them very, very well. Those designers are absolutely committed to sustainability and fashion. They come out of our universities already driven, and certainly during the pandemic and before, it was very obvious to us that a lot of these brands have been making commercial decisions which were perhaps not going to put them on the easiest course to grow their businesses, but were very much driven by a desire to put sustainability and ethical practices at the very heart of everything they do. So my hat is taken off to those designers in the UK in particular, and there are many others around the world. Let's not forget that this is not just a UK phenomenon, it's an international one. And then, yes, you may not expect me to say that, those of you that know me, Brexit also provides the opportunity for us to reinvest in manufacturing, quality manufacturing, socially responsible manufacturing, possibility to bring back parts of the supply chain, for example, that have disappeared over the years. And the reason I say that is because we have spent at UKFT the last year and a half working very closely with government to try and make sure that those free trade agreements that the government is going to do with places like the EU, with Australia, with Canada, with New Zealand, for example, that those, our expectation is, will be driven very much by they will only be applicable to those companies that are manufacturing goods with UK origin. So whilst we may all hear that under this free trade agreement, 98% of all tariffs will disappear. That's not entirely accurate. 98% of tariffs may disappear, but only for the 5 or 10 or possibly 15% of UK brands that manufacture UK origin goods. So that is going to drive my expectation and hope is a return to UK manufacturing, and we are closely working with the government to try to get them to understand the vital importance of putting together a strategy to support manufacturing. And it's not just because UK manufacturing is better, but it can be more transparent for UK designers, London designers, if they have the ability to travel up the M1 to Leicester in an hour and a half, or jump on a train even quicker and perhaps better for the environment, then they can see firsthand what's going on in the factories, who is manufacturing the goods that are carrying their name. And I think that is one way of making sure the sustainability is hot-wired into the DNA of those brands. If you haven't already, and I'm approaching the end of my allocated slot, do please look at the Fashion Revolution's website and have a look at their Fashion Transparency Index. It's hidden slightly towards the bottom of their homepage, and they rank a number of the big international fashion brands according to what they're doing. This is partly aimed at making sure that we avoid one of the big challenges, which is greenwashing. It's very easy at the moment for people to say, yes, I'm all into sustainability, yes, I support this campaign, and then to go off and do something which is absolutely the opposite of encouraging sustainable practices. As somebody has always campaigned for a level playing field, we need to redouble our efforts. And at UKFT, we are redoubling our efforts to encourage the UK government to create a playing field. And we've started off highlighting the fact that the UK is one of the few countries around the world that actually encourages our competition to take advantage of the open UK market around things like police uniforms, for example, firefighter uniforms. There is no reason why those goods cannot be made ethically in this country. And as we saw during the PPE crisis, we have campaigned for a longer term approach to PPE because another pandemic could be around the corner. At the moment, I have to be honest to you and say that that is an argument we do not seem to be winning. But it is vitally important because those companies that manufacture our PPE in the UK, and a lot of textile mills that actually make the textiles in the UK and then ship them off to China, would really like to see parts of the supply chain much closer to home. Beware of the scourge that is greenwashing. I've mentioned it already, but above all, I think we would always say, read the label, read the garment label. Because you can see from garment labels, if it says it's made in the UK and it's £2.99, then either that's not true, or the chances are that the person that made that garment has been paid next to nothing, if anything at all. So again, coming back to my central point, we all have a responsibility to be ambassadors for this, to think about how we buy the clothes and the accessories and the textiles and everything else that we use in this country. And if you ever want to set yourself a challenge, I would say try and find a toaster or an electric drill that has not been manufactured in China. It's an interesting exercise. You'll get very frustrated, as I did. And that will be a very important illustration. We all have to become activists in this area, in our business life and also in our personal lives, because there is no planet B, as they say. So please, if I can, I'd now like to hand over to Claire Lepiniere, who's going to talk to us about the circular textiles economy, and I will look forward to speaking to you all later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you very much for that very inspiring scene setting. So I'm Claire Lepiniere. I'm a senior lecturer in textiles at Montfort University, and my current research and teaching practice and also personal obsession is really focusing on the human and ecological impacts of textiles. Today, I'd like to introduce you to the next huge shift in the industry, and it's really not hyperbolic to describe this as having as great an impact on textiles and the garment trade, potentially as the Industrial Revolution had in terms of shifting the practice and business of the global and textiles garment industry. And this really kind of ties into some of the work that we're doing here at De Montfort, particularly within our Textile Engineering and Materials Research Group, where we investigate the human and ecological impacts of the fashion and textiles industry, circular textile economies, and really shifting the paradigm of fashion and textiles production towards responsible design. So next slide, please. So as we know, historically, the scale of the textiles and garment trade in Leicester made it the second richest city in Europe in the 1930s, giving rise to the slogan, Leicester closed the world. And the reason that we have such a fabulous and rich environment that we teach in is as a kind of parallel to the industry, growing up around training and really kind of leading in kind of innovative materials and teaching developments within the industry. So the history of textiles in Leicester is so embedded in our education, in our geography, and our people. So Leicester's responsible textiles and garment industry really continued to provide a cornerstone to employment and innovation within the city. Next slide, please. So as we know, we've got a series of global challenges. I'm not going to go into those in too much depth, but consumers are, as well as academics and industry people and government people and NGOs, consumers are increasingly aware, as Paul has indicated, in issues such as greenhouse gas emissions, pollution, finite resource depletion, exploitation, and what is the linear economy, or the kind of take, make, dump economy. A kind of flip side of seeing that is that the industry provides really amazing opportunities for gainful employment, renewable resources and renewable resource modeling of how that can be used, carbon capture through through responsible farming and responsible agriculture in terms of production of fibers, and opportunities for innovations such as the circular economy. Next slide, please. So this is a rather complex diagram, which you may be familiar with, or you may not be familiar with, but it's really about, in a circular economy for textiles, all resources in the supply chain are safe to use and produce. They use recycled or renewable materials. Products are kept in use for longer, and products are recyclable and recycled at the end of use. And also, it's really important to have the human dimension in here as well. So workers are given opportunities for meaningful employment. The work is safe. They're not working with hazardous factories and with hazardous materials. Materials are safe for use, so you're not having pollution or other toxic chemicals on the surface of the textiles. And people, particularly garment workers, of which we know about 80% of the industry is female, are given the opportunity to have a valuable sort of employment. They earn a living wage, and they've got opportunities for advancement. So we have two kind of systems. One's a biological system and one's a technical system, which this butterfly diagram reflects. But it's really kind of underpinned by a model of biological cycles. So really grounded in the cycle of nature, where all waste is seen as nutrients for new products. And that could be a literal nutrient, such as textile waste, which is not toxic, can go into enriching the soil. It can be composted. It can be used as a food for animals if there are kind of to release some of the calorific value in that product, or it can be recycled and technically recovered through technical and innovative textiles processing. So it's really underpinned by principles led by design, so eliminating waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. So not only is it there to not create a bad output, it's there to create a good output. And realizing this will require collaborative efforts by industry, government, investment, large-scale innovation, and really keeping that, you know, what Paul's alluded to with the transparency and traceability in the cycle. Next slide, please. So a slightly simpler input, and I do recommend the Ellen MacArthur Foundation report from 2017, which was the recommendations for the new textiles economy. It's really about all materials within fashion and textiles should be cycled through technical cycle loops of reuse, repair, remaking, recycling. And the sharing economy, where garments are cared for, appreciated, and reinvigorated. These are fashion habits and behaviors which were in use for generations, but which over the past 20, 30 years have become obsolete with the rise in throwaway fashion. So sometimes it's just kind of revisiting our fashion heritages and our making heritages. It's also thinking about phasing out substances of concern. So really being aware of what is going into your product. And this is where, if we are manufacturing all stages of the supply chain within the UK, we can have a lot more control because we can see what the outputs are. We can test the water effluent, we can test the sludge. We understand what is going into that product and where the outputs are kind of out of sight, out of mind, abroad. These are real issues. So it requires manufacturers to really look at every stage of their garment, not just the final stage where the garment is cut and sewn and made up into a complete outfit. So it's really thinking around every part of the supply chain and every part of the of how that product is manufactured. In particular, things such as microfiber usage, what happens to the microfibers, what the inputs are for things like renewable energies. So things such as the impacts of textile production, both in Europe and overseas, many of the impacts are due to how the factories are powered. So if you've got a coal-powered factory, you're obviously having a huge greenhouse gas emission for that production of that garment. And we've seen in the UK at companies such as Rapa Nui and the Isle of Wight and David Nieper and Alfreton, when they've built their own solar systems, not only does it power their factories in a clean way, but also they're able to recoup their investment in a relatively short period of time. Next slide, please. So really, it's thinking about opportunities for not only being responsible and doing this because it's the right thing to do, but also thinking about new business models which are focused on textiles reuse, repair, remanufacturing and sharing. And these really offer significant business opportunities, leading to a more resilient economy and new income streams, particularly from the inventory and customer closets. So thinking about design for longevity, design for rental. The potential fashion rental market is valued at £923 million. The UK fashion and textiles industry alone sends 1.5 million tonnes of solid waste in the form of unused yarn, fabric and clothing. So clothing doesn't even get to the consumer, to landfill annually. 74% of textile, post-consumer textiles, so clothes that have been worn, are disposed in landfill. Estimates on this value is up to £12.5 billion per year. So this is a simple economic prospect as well as an ethical and responsible prospect. So ultimately, the final slide, please. The ultimate aim, and I've included this image of a landfill because it's really interesting. When you Google images on landfill on the Creative Commons search, you always find textiles in the foreground. They're always there. And a global transition to a circular economy has the opportunity to unlock over £400 billion globally. In the UK, we're looking at tens of billions. And it really represents a huge economic opportunity in the fashion industry by better capturing the value of underutilized and landfilled or incinerated clothes, but also by really capturing allowing the brands to really capture the consumer imagination and just show what kind of an industry is possible. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here to talk about a very different type of industry liaison and conversations that have been derived from my PhD research that was awarded by De Montfort University. And it is quite an unusual interdisciplinary set of activities, bringing together textile design with metal finishing and conductive surface patterning. So next slide, please. My background, just to explain, is very much as an academic, a maker historian, and also a researcher. And my activities have ranged from being an artist consultant with the BBC to taking part in a number of publications, which, to explain fully and the relationship to industry that this has conveyed is I have been involved in a very individual speculative approach to find new ways to grow metal onto fabric. And this has involved quite a sophisticated range of different types of processes and techniques, and also working with perhaps unusual industry partners. Next slide, please. My industry research projects, led as principal investigator, have actually involved 3 companies, one of whom, Biodata Limited from Manchester, are a data collection and sensor development company. Also, who knew that I would be involved in working with industrial chrome platers from Cradley Heath in the Black Country, and also a conductive ink instruction and media development company called Electron from Austin, Texas in the USA. And this has all been related to the electrical conductivity and media development of my actual research. And the intention of this was to find new markets whilst also expanding on the range of opportunities for both 3 companies, and also to expand on the range of materials and techniques within the mixed media and embroidery industries. So this combination of textiles with new and unusual processes has really gained a tremendous amount of interest. And also, in terms of good news for the fashion and textiles industry, has widened the scope of embroidery in particular within the UK and America. So if we'd like to go on to the next slide, please. The benefits and outcomes have been really quite substantial for both the industry companies, the partners, and the university. The companies themselves have made a small investment in this very speculative research and the new markets for them. They didn't, and they weren't expecting to consider fabric as a base cloth and material, and also the potential to go into sportswear and items for well-being. But this has helped really build an exciting relationship with the university and myself, and it has potential in terms of development consultancy, networking, bringing in new employees, and new employees with a real world and industrial activity experience. The university itself promotes a fantastic scheme called Frontrunners and Graduate Champions, and I have been able to involve in these research projects with a real world experience, jewellers, textile designers, mechanical engineers, as research assistants at both undergraduate and postgraduate level. And they've gone on to be such diverse employees for electric car design, and also being self-employed as jewellers, gone on to MFC study, and as textile designers. And the benefit of this for the individuals with whom I've been working in industry is that they have real world experienced young employees who they can bring on, but also that the whole sort of ethos of heritage manufacture, particularly in the focus of metal finishing, has been and is starting to be reinvigorated, and this idea of new technologies being tested and combined. And this has really helped in terms of electroforming, which is the key metal finishing technique I've been involved with. It has helped to start reduce the loss of skill set, given the demographic of experts in the area. So this has brought together a really fantastic set of good news stories and future-proofing for not only the fashion and textile industry, but also the metal finishing and new technologies and conductive surface patterning industries. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to be speaking at this exciting event today. Thank you to Rihanna and the team for organising this. I'm Catherine Livingstone. I'm a lecturer at Montfort University, and I'm the programme leader for a master's programme called Contour Fashion Innovation, which we launched in October of 2020. Next slide, please. So I'm sure that we can all agree that the fashion and textiles industry is undergoing quite a lot of change currently in response to COVID, Brexit, and of course to the global climate crisis and sustainability more generally, among other things. The students are the industry of tomorrow, and our students care very deeply about these affecting factors and their impact on their future industry, especially in relation to sustainability. They're very aware of the black mark which has tarnished the fashion industry over the past decades, and they want the industry they come into to be different and to be better. They want to be part of that change, and they want to be and to work with other innovators. The programme Contour Fashion Innovation, which I lead, is a postgraduate programme. And although sustainability is very much part of undergraduate teaching and students of all levels are really invested in this subject, the difference at postgraduate is that students have more independence in their choice of study. There's a deeper focus on research and analysis, as you'd expect. So students can really investigate at a different level. They can question, create theories, test them, disprove them, etc. Always uncovering more knowledge and more specialism in the areas they choose. On Contour Fashion Innovation, as well as many other de Montfort programmes, sustainability is really embedded at its core. We use the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals as a framework for better understanding sustainability. All of our students relate to the climate action goal, probably because of the immediacy of the problem which this goal aims to tackle. However, many of the other goals are investigated through student research alongside their own specialism. Next slide, please. So as well as this commitment to sustainability, or possibly in part fueled by this commitment, we see our students, or in our students, creativity, resourcefulness, and an ability to adapt and to respond to the challenges which working sustainably brings. And again, I'm sure that we can agree that there are challenges here. Next slide, please. So on the Contour programmes, both at undergraduate and on the MA, and across many other programmes, we work very closely with industry at de Montfort. Many of the speakers here today are really great examples of industry supporting students and working with the university, whether providing insightful, thought-provoking talks, sharing knowledge, facilitating brilliant industry visits, donating materials, and much more. This support is really hugely welcome, and we seek to encourage further working relationships with industry as we see the positive impact this has not only on the development of our students and their ideas, but also those who've contributed valuable time and resource to this. Collaboration with industry provides real context of the workings of different businesses, the direction that industry is moving towards sustainably, the great work which has been done to improve areas of the industry already, and of course to highlight areas of difficulty and potential focus for further improvement in a really real and practical way. It also offers huge opportunity to students who discover areas they had not known about, and we often see student projects evolving quite differently based on what they've absorbed from these connections. Of course, it helps to connect students with industry directly, and sometimes offers a platform for a more lasting relationship, which can be equally beneficial for our industry partners. Next slide, please. So as I've alluded to, there are many ways of industry getting involved with the university and some of its courses, and I would urge anyone interested to please get in touch directly. My email's at the bottom of this slide, and I know many other courses would welcome contact from interested parties. As mentioned, talks, visits, donations are hugely beneficial to us, and we welcome industry to collaborate in this way. However, we can also work on projects where students may be addressing a particular area of focus for a company within their study. It might be research-based or more practically based. We have modules where a student can work for a company and undertake a research project simultaneously, which again can be beneficial to both parties. As a university, there are also opportunities to work on research projects, as Joe's been talking about, working together involving students as well as lecturers such as KTPs. And of course, these experiences and interactions can help to develop relationships, like I was saying, between students and companies. And we know that some of these connections lead to trusting working relationships, internships, and employment. I think I'm out of time now. However, please do get in touch with any questions. I'm always happy to have a discussion about how a relationship may be best developed or evolved, as these relationships are so important to us and ultimately will lead us towards developing our accomplished graduate change makers of tomorrow's industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Claire. Thanks, Joe, and thank you, Catherine, for those presentations. I think they really give you a feel for the ethos of our teaching at De Montfort within the School of Fashion and Textiles, and some of the ingenuity and the research activity that's happening within the school. So the next part of the session, I'm really pleased to be able to introduce our two of our industry guests. First guest is Barry Head from Stretchline, who is going to talk about some of the innovations that Stretchline have been developing. So I'm going to pass over to Barry, who's actually here on site, so that's wonderful. And then our second guest is Nick Turner from Sew Systems, who's online. So I'm going to swap over and let Barry take the floor.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Are we okay to start? Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting us along here today so we can talk about Stretchline, of actually who Stretchline are, what we do. Hopefully, I'd like to be able to give you a bit more idea of exactly who we are and how many different marketplaces we work in. But probably more importantly, the sort of the things we're striving to do as far as innovation is concerned, but also sustainability. Innovation, I would already say, is part of our DNA. Sustainability is now pretty much there as well. So first of all, then, regarding who we are, we've all actually got something in common that you're probably not all aware of. We all eat, we all drink, and we all wear elastic at some stage during our lives. Now, Stretchline, next slide, please. Sorry, on the next one. So basically, what I want to talk to you about today then is who we are, who are our partners within industry, and how we keep innovating, what actually are our brands and innovations, and what is our sustainability strategy. Next slide, please. So who is Stretchline? And again, please. So Stretchline are the largest elastic manufacturer in the world. We manufacture around about 1.5 billion meters a year, which equates to about 28 million meters a week. So it's a huge amount. We manufacture in 7 countries: China, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Mexico, Honduras, North America, and we've still got 3 factories here in the UK. One of them in Leicester, a place called Whetstone. We employ around about 4,500 people within our organisation, probably only about 100 still in the UK. And basically, a lot of the developments start off here in the UK and then are moved overseas. But we also have around about 100 to 150 people dedicated to innovation at our main site in Sri Lanka. There's about 150 people there. They've got their own weaving machines, their own knitting machines, their own dye machines, totally away from bulk production, so they can concentrate just on innovation. Next slide, please. So of this 1.5 billion meters that we manufacture, it's enough to wrap around the world about 30 times, unstretched. Next slide, please. So as I say, we manufacture in 4 continents: China, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Mexico, Honduras, North America, and again, still here in the UK. Next slide, please. So who do we actually work with? Well, on the screen now, you should be able to see a list of all the major brands and retailers that we work with. We won't go into any details because you can see by the logos, it's literally a who's who. Anybody that's that's you can probably think of is probably on this chart somewhere. And as I say, judging by where we're situated in the Western world, it probably is a case that most of the people watching this, certainly the ladies, will probably be wearing the elastic from Stretchline. They just didn't know it. Next slide, please. So our global scale, because we're in all these countries, we're close to needle point. That's the main thing to get over. We're close to needle point. Wherever people start transferring their business and setting up factories in various places, we're pretty close to where they are, where they need to be. We're in 7 countries, as I say, at the moment. We're also now looking at Vietnam, so that's probably going to be country number 8. Buyers doing this and being close to needle point, it also then helps our customers be more innovative and quicker, more competitive and quicker response times for the developments that they want to do as well. Next slide, please. So who are the partners that we associate with or work with to give our success? As I say, DNA is certainly part of our innovation. Innovation is part of our DNA, should I say. So again, we work with the universities. We've worked with De Montfort University here in Leicester, I would think for probably 25 years, if not longer. We've been taking a student from the graduation course at the end of, from the contour course, probably for the last 12 to 15 years. We normally take them over to Sri Lanka, put them into our development site. They stay there for a couple of 3 years. After 2 or 3 years, it's probably best for them that they do leave and go into industry. It's then just as good for us because we just come back to the university, select another one, and away we go again. We get somebody fresh from university with all their new ideas and to go forward. What this person does when COVID struck, we had to bring them back from Sri Lanka. So now the design manager is based at our factory up in Long Eaton in Nottingham. But what they do is they develop all the elastics and all the innovations, put them into the presentations that we require to take out to all the various customers that you've seen on a previous slide, so we can show them around each season. Next slide, please. And again. In addition to De Montfort University, we also work very closely with, I would think, probably 6 other universities, all on different subjects. Loughborough University, again, just down the road in Leicester. We've sponsored somebody on their master's degree there on a particular project that we've been working on. As far as De Montfort's concerned, we're actually looking at now taking an intern for the first time and base them up at our factory in Nottingham. So again, it's ongoing. So in addition to the universities, where a lot of these bright ideas come from in the first place, we then have people within the industry who can actually help us put these projects into motion as such. One of these is Sew Systems. There is actually a little video there on that one, if we can play that. So this is Sew Systems. So this is where we actually get together on various projects. This particular one that you'll see on the screen now is where we supply an elastic with a glue film onto it, which is then bonded into a garment. So garments are glued together and not sewn, but we'll come on to that one when we go through the brands. So we've been working with Sew Systems now, based in Leicester, up the road in Oadby for, I would think, again, must be getting on 20 years. So there's a lot of innovations that we've done that Sew Systems have helped us because they're the engineers within the industry to help us through this. Next slide, please. So as I say, innovation is part of our DNA. And we see that as the only way to transform elastic going forward. If we're not innovating, we're standing still. And it's the only way forward that we foresee. And the next slide, please. So what are our brands and innovations? Next slide, please. The first one that we initially worked on was FortiTube. Now, most of our brands are internal brands that we market ourselves to the industry. Virtually all of these brands were developed for problems that industry had and told us they had, and they're all basically solutions to existing problems. So as I say, the first one we had was FortiTube. FortiTube is a wire casing for underwire bras. The biggest problem with underwire bras is this happens. The metal wire pops out. Prior to us developing FortiTube, virtually every underwire bra label, care label that was on the garment would say hand wash only. Well, we all know that people didn't hand wash them. They put them into the washing machine with everything else. Lo and behold, before you know it, the wires start popping out. The garment is then no good, and quite often neither is the washing machine if it gets stuck in the drum. So when Stretchline developed FortiTube, this is basically a puncture-proof wire casing. We make it with low melt yarns, which melt at around about 85 degrees, 90 degrees. Nylon when we dye it, because everything in intimates is dyed to match. So every time we dye it, we have to dye to the higher temperature to dye anyway. So every time we do dye it, the low melt yarns, which is exactly what we want to do, the warp and the weft yarns then become plasticized, forms a penetration barrier, and the metal wire can no longer poke through. This is absolutely massive for us and has been for probably the last 20 years. It goes into round about 350 million garments a year. If you were to go to most of the retailers in the UK, you wouldn't be able to buy a bra in M&S that was an underwire bra which didn't have FortiTube in it. Every one will have FortiTube. So that's how we started off. Some people do actually advertise it with swing tickets on the packaging to inform the customer what it is, what it does. Again, before this, a lot of people wouldn't have been even aware of that and wouldn't even be aware of Stretchline. Next slide, please. So the next one that came our way was LockSafe. Now, LockSafe is just for knitted elastics. Biggest problem with knitted elastics, we were told, was knitted elastics are always used in things like panties. Woven elastics are normally used in bras for the different criteria that's required. But normally knitted elastics are the cheaper version. The biggest problem they had was the elastic coming undone. Where it's sewn around the waist and around the leg, you try and put as much sewing in there to hold it into place. You'd also bar tack it. And again, if you didn't secure everything, the lycra ends or the elastanes would actually come out, and you could also pick at the elastic and virtually pull it apart. Well, Stretchline then developed LockSafe elastic. LockSafe elastic is anti-run back and anti-unravel. So it's the way we manufacture it. We manufacture it in a different way. We have developed some special bars that we put on the front of our machines. So we can now make elastics that are anti-run back. So when you cut the elastic, the elastanes are not going to run back within the construction, and they anti-unravel because you can't then pick at the elastic and pull it apart. The more you pick at it and pull it, the more it locks together, and that's why we call it LockSafe. Again, basic products like this, 5-pair pack, 4-pair pack panties. Again, some people do still advertise LockSafe on the packaging to let the customer know what it is, what it does. Next slide, please. Bondilast. Again, this is the one that we initially developed with Sew Systems, and I'm sure Nick will update you a bit more on this one. But again, when we started this one, as I mentioned earlier, this is for manufacturing elastics with a glue film on. So the whole idea is you bond garments together, and you don't sew them. We initially did the developments with Speedo, who's up the road there in Nottingham. We first did it for the 2008 Beijing Olympics on the Speedo LZR Racer. Biggest problem that they told us that they had was when the athlete dives into the water and they're swimming, a sewn seam causes drag in the water. And as these athletes are, you're quite aware, same as with the British cycling team, anything that causes drag, even these minute seconds that they can save, they all add up if they do perform various different functions that prevent it. So what we did was we've got the fabrics, we've got two fabrics, sonically weld them together, but sonically welding them just gently knits them together. It doesn't have the power, bit of pressure, and they'll just pull apart again. So what was needed was a seam reinforcement elastic like this one, a flat elastic with a glue film on one side. It goes over the seams, bonded down. When they test this now and they stretch it to destruction, it always rips a fabric now before the bonded seams. So again, that was a greater innovation that solved a major problem for them. Because we're so close to lingerie, again, I'm not showing anybody anything that they couldn't buy in stores. This is the Triumph Tri-Action sports bra. This particular one, the whole garment is glued together. The only bit of sewing is on the top and the bottom of the elastic and where the hook and eyes meet. Everything else is glued together. The underband is what we call a Y-fold elastic. We manufacture an elastic that then breaks into two on the edge. We put a glue film at the bottom, glue film at the top. You sandwich the fabric in between, apply the heat from Sew Systems machinery, and bond it down. Prior to that, underbands on garments like this used to have this ridge of sewing going around that was, really uncomfortable. But again, it's almost now like a seamless garment, but it is actually joined together by bond elast. Next slide, please. Stay for shore. Well, again, the biggest Stay for shore came our way purely because the biggest problem that people had, and initially it was for hold-up stockings. Now, as most people probably are aware, hold-up stockings don't do what they say. They don't hold up, or stay up, as the Americans called them. Previously, they relied on a lace or an elastic sewn onto the leg, and then they have two bands of silicone going around the inside, 12, 15 mil wide, two bands of it, but you relied on compression around the leg to hold it in place. Quite often, as soon as the wearer couldn't feel it, it's probably because it had fallen down, and that's probably what did happen. So what Stretchline developed was Stay for Shore silicone. Now, Stay for Shore silicone is a new type of silicone. We don't use any more silicone than previous. We just spread it out in a wider load, but we have a top coat of a sticky silicone. And the reason it's sticky is because it's a really soft silicone gel. When that's applied to hold-ups now, I mean, they're not going anywhere. They are going to hold up all day long. So again, we started off with hosiery. We put it into hosiery garments, cured that problem. Like most things, these sort of things were done for M&S here in the UK. But now you could, every hold-up in Asda, Sainsbury's, Tesco's, they're all using Stay for Shore silicone. Again, some of them advertising it on the packaging, telling the customer what it is. Hyperallergenic is one of the big things there. This is when we're applying our silicone in continuous form. So we either manufacture an elastic and apply the silicone on top, or people send us a lace and we supply it on top. But we also now have at Nottingham, we've got robots. So we've now gone into robotics. And what we're able to do now is garments, finished garments are now sent to us. It's moved on from hold-up stockings. That's still happening. But we've all been involved in PPE. This is yet another product we developed for PPE during COVID, where we've now got a silicone coating that goes around the rim of that hoodie, medical hoodie, to hold it in place just over the nose, and it's not going to move anywhere. And again, it's done by robotics. We also have another association with a company, again, another Leicester company down in Hinckley called TJ Socks. He's now got a brand called Prem Grip. We do the silicone in for this. So again, this was all trialed with Leicester City Football Club. A lot of the players there, where we silicone dots on the outside of the sock and on the inside of the sock. The whole idea is when they put the sock onto the foot, the sock stays in place. When they put the foot inside the boot, it then sticks to the boot. So as they're running around and changing direction, There's no slippage inside of the foot, inside the boot or the sock. Next slide, please. The next one is called Fit J. Now, Fit J is a new type of elastomer. So everybody's probably familiar with Lycra, which is, a standard elastomer. There are other versions, Dorlaston and various others. But Fit J is a new type of elastomer. Now, initially, it was developed by Victoria's Secrets in the US. Stretchline have got the exclusivity with Lubrizol, the guys who manufacture the elastomer, to make all the elastics. And I think there's a company called Rute to make the fabrics. Now, when this was initially done, as you'll see on this enabled then bra manufacturers to make a bra, and the strap has got no rings, no slides, no adjustment. It is a self-adjusting strap, and it's all to do with the unique stretch. So what they had to do was they have to obviously work out what the length of elastic is required. We do it in different widths for the bigger size bras, and then again it just stretches to each individual size. You will also see this now in Sainsbury's. Again, it's on sale in Sainsbury's now. Same idea. A strap, a given length of strap that stretches with a unique stretch to fit all sizes, and it's done away with the rings and the slides. Again, a sustainable issue as well. We then went on to panties. So again, we did the elastomer inside panties. And this, again, another one by Victoria's Secrets. These panties absolutely stretch, but don't get any tighter. The whole idea is when you stretch it, it keeps the same power curve. Normally elastic, as soon as you start stretching it, you get resistance and the power curve goes straight up on the graph. This will carry on stretching. What they did here was they put it on the waist of an elastic and on the leg. Because again, it doesn't really matter what the size is. If it's say a size 12, then that elastic is made to fit a size 12 leg. But you could be a size 12 leg, but your leg could be this wide, or this wide. This elastic, because it's on the leg as well, the elastomer, will stretch to whatever size your leg is, and it won't feel any tighter, even on the widest legs. Again, it's also gone into jacquards. This is still a ladies one, but it's also gone into men's boxers. So again, when you sit down and everything expands, it doesn't get any tighter. The biggest thing about Fit J now is, and this is where the sustainability starts to kick in, not only have we done away with rings and slides, Fiber J, the elastane that goes into our products, is the only recyclable elastomer there is. So now garments, if the elastic has got the Fiber J elastane in there and also the fabric, they never need to go to landfill again. They can all now be melted back down again, chomped up, melted back down into chips, sold again on the open market, and then made into products like this. This has been made from melted down garments. So glass frames, car bumpers, dashboards. It's now a huge thing for us. Next slide, please. Archiform. This is our latest product that's literally only just happened. And again, this has been in conjunction with Sew Systems because they've actually built the machine for us. Although we developed a wire casing to stop the wire poking out, the next one on our agenda was to develop something to do away with the metal wire. And this is where Archiform has come in. So what we've developed now is a casing where we extrude a resin inside. Now, people have used plastic wires inside underwire bras. But again, the problem with a plastic wire is once you bend the plastic, it will actually kink and fracture and it's never coming back. This will come back on its own. So at the moment, we did a trial run. It's actually gone to a company called Ambra in Australia. So it's right the way around the world. We wanted to pick somebody that was not with, along with our common customers. So, obviously we took it to M&S down the road or somebody or Next, and it didn't work, then obviously we'd be dead in the water almost. So we did it in Australia with a company called Ambra. We expecting a small trial run to get the machine going, probably 5,000 meters or so. It's now gone into 80,000 bras. And as I say, When this has been tested and worn by the fit models in the various retailers, the feedback we've had is if you hadn't have told us it wasn't an underwire bra, we would not have known. Now, the beauty of it is it will still hold the shape and give the shape that's required, but the bra will then move with the body and not be restricted by the metal wire that can tend to dig in front or back. Next slide, please. That's the brands. So now we're talking just quickly about some of the other innovations that we do. Electron beaming, engraving. There is also a quick video on that one, so you can actually see it in action. This is to take the place of a jacquard, or more so embossing. So anything that anybody can send to us, any sort of logo or pattern, basically we fire a laser, a very low powered laser, fire it into the elastic to the pattern that's required, and away it'll go. So that's electron beaming. The next slide. Polychrome, this is just another way of doing dyeing elastics together. So normally this is more for jacquards where you have two separate colors. This enables us to dye two different colors in one dye bath. So you don't have to buy in the particular colors of pre-dyed yarns, and if they're not used or they don't sell that well, then somebody's gonna have to pay for it. This we can make just undyed elastic in a jacquard pattern using different yarns, different dye stuffs that react with the different yarns, and can dye to two different colors all in one dye bath. Next slide, please. So again, innovation is in our DNA. Next one, please. So what is our sustainability strategy? Well, if we go to the next slide, please. We're all really conscious about the environmental impact that we have. Textiles is probably the worst people on the planet for CO2 emissions and everything else, and anti-green as such. So it's definitely now almost within our DNA as well. Next slide, please. So there's various things that we're working on. I won't go into detail. You'd almost need a separate presentation of this, but it's almost everything that you would expect as somebody like Stretchline to be working on the various yarns, the carbon emissions, and also now even the way we design things by doing elastics in 3D, using Browseware, where we can develop in elastics all on screen without us actually having to make a sample. This is actually, we believe, going to save 20 or 25% of the time it takes and the effort it takes to actually set a machine up to run to show your first development. We can skip over the first hurdles and go straight into developments on something that's already been pre-selected because they've seen it digitally. Okay, that's pretty much it. I'd like to hand over now to Nick, who's at Sew Systems, so he can tell you a bit more about Sew Systems and how we work together with the various projects over the years.
Hello, thank you, Barry. That was really interesting. And hello to all. I'm Nick Turner. I'm a director at Sew Systems, where I've worked for 33 years. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you to the DMU for the invitation to talk about the evolution of Sew Systems over the last 40 years. Sew Systems, formerly AD Turner Limited, has been in business for 40 years. We have 35 employees and we have 3 factories in Oadby in Leicester. The company was started by Tony Turner, initially manufacturing fabric guides and folders for sewing machines. As business grew, Tony employed engineers making sewing machine needle plates, feeds, and labour-saving devices to help speed up production for much of the UK textile industry. As the years passed, many of the UK textile factories closed and moved abroad to places like Morocco and China in search of cheaper labour. So the need for labour-saving devices decreased. We needed to find new opportunities to keep our skilled workforce employed. With our new manufacturing core and textile background, we found that customers were coming to Sew Systems with production problems that needed solving. We needed to start to design and manufacture special purpose machinery and devices. One of the first machines that we designed and manufactured was a machine that compressed fabric between a large heated belt and a pattern roller, giving almost a corrugated effect to the fabric, but it looked totally flat. This pre-shrunk the material on items such as waistbands on trousers and skirts, so that when worn, it would stretch back to its original size to give a very comfortable fit. Many of these machines are still used by companies such as Levi's to manufacture their comfort fit trousers. It was at a similar time that we first started working with Stretchline. They used our machines to pre-shrink their 40-tube bra wire casing, which Barry has just shown. The reason they did this was, as it was pre-shrunk, when it was washed again, the wire casing didn't shrink anymore. So therefore the wire could be made to the perfect size, so it didn't come out during washing. So Systems also worked with Stretchline to develop a device that could insert the bra wire into a bra at the same time as applying the wire casing, as opposed to the conventional way of the wire being inserted by hand, because this also led to repetitive strain claims from the operator having to feed the wire in. This device helped to speed up production. It also meant that the wire dictated the shape of the cup, giving a consistent shape. At this time, Systems had developed a range of innovative machines and devices which allowed us to start showing at exhibitions worldwide. At one of these exhibitions, approximately 20 years ago, we were approached by an American company called Bemis. Bemis, they manufactured a heat-activated adhesive tape and were looking for somebody to develop a machine to apply their adhesive onto the fabric to create bonded seams. The seam was designed to replace the stitch seam. We thought the idea had mileage, so we decided to invest our time in developing the first bonding machine to market. The machine was a great success, and we've sold thousands over the years. This meant that we started to travel the world, selling, installing, and giving training, which was a great experience for Systems. Initially, the bonding machines were used to manufacture lingerie because it offered comfortable flat seams with low VPL. So brands such as Marks and Spencer's, Triumph, Victoria's Secrets, and many more use the technology to great success. Then came sportswear brands such as Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, Speedo, who wanted the technology for their garments. Launching this technology also gave us another opportunity to work closely with Stretchline. As Barry showed recently, the Bond-Elast range of elastics that were coated with a hot melt adhesive were applied using the Systems machines, which applied heat and bonded them to the garments. When you design a successful machine, it doesn't take long for competitors to copy and make their own version of this technology. Having now manufactured and sold over 3,000 machines from our Leicester base and exported them worldwide, there are many Chinese variants of these machines, and our market share has become a little bit smaller. So once again, we have to adapt to make business profitable and keep our skilled workforce employed. One of our most recent projects is to work with Stretchline again to help develop the machinery for the Arcaform production line. I cannot say too much about how this project is working for confidentiality reasons, but it looks like it's going to be a great success, as Barry explained. With our bonding knowledge, we decided to set up a small but specialised garment manufacturing arm of our business, offering bonding machinery, laser cutting machinery, ultrasonics, and sewing technology. Many of these garments that we work on tend to combine both bonded and stitched seams, so a range of specialised machinery and knowledge is required. With this knowledge, we've been able to help design and manufacture some really interesting garments, many incorporating electronics, and a lot of these garments are used in the field of medical and sportswear for body monitoring. I've just got a few garments here that I can quickly just show you and run through. So this one is a glove, completely bonded together with a few stitch seams. When it's worn, there are bend sensors that are fitted inside the glove, so that when you bend your finger, each individual finger, it registers the movement digitally, so that it can be used to play music. So a set of drums, so you can have the snare, the bass, and various different things. And the future could be for robotics, to operate robotics for aerospace and an army, bomb disposals, etc. So this is one of the projects that we currently work on and we manufacture. I've got another one here that we've been working on for quite a few years now. This incorporates Stretchline's Nano elastic, so this sticks, and some beamish tape. So a lot of this has been bonded together. This is used by fast response teams. It's got sensors that pick up on your heartbeat, and you can drop a tablet and it detects your core temperature. And these are used around the world by the army, by fast response teams, and in medical as well. So that's one of the products. And then another product that we're working on recently, again, completely bonded, no sewing at all on this. So this is used to repair eyes. So there's a pod that goes into this device, shines through. So when you're sleeping, you wear this mask and it helps repair the retina at the back of your eyes. So no business talk could be complete without mentioning the pandemic. In the last 18 years, all of our business travel has stopped. We couldn't get on an aeroplane to visit customers, show at exhibitions, and many of our customers' orders have cancelled, which had a huge effect on our order books. We have always been able to learn and adapt quickly to change, and while selling bonding machines, we've also sold ultrasonic machines. So when there was a world shortage of PPE surgical gowns, the government encouraged UK companies to start manufacturing them. We were able to adapt our ultrasonic machines to provide the UK companies who were in need of these machines to help with the cause. So this helped us through a challenging period. We also were offered the opportunity to invest and set up a factory to manufacture Type 2R surgical face masks. It was a massive learning curve for us. We learned very quickly, and we're very proud to say that we were up and running within 10 weeks. We are currently manufacturing 250,000 masks a week in our factory in Oadby in Leicester. The factory has a state-of-the-art clean room, which at the point could be converted to be used to manufacture and assemble or pack products with non-potential contamination, where contamination is essential. So Systems as a company, we are currently very busy. Our bonding machine sales have started to increase again. Our engineering manufacturing division is busy, as is our garment side of the business. But it has always been hard work to keep it this way. One thing that we have learned over 40 years is that we need to keep evolving and adapting to new challenges. There have been many opportunities over the years to move our company and manufacture our machinery outside of the UK. But we have chosen to remain British manufacturers based in Leicester, employ people, and we are very proud to have done so for the last 40 years. There have been many sleepless nights thinking about business, how it needs to flex and adapt to keep going. During these times, we have invented some cutting-edge technology and been first to market with many ideas. This is how new ideas and technology is created, and we cannot have one without the other. Who knows what the future will bring, but I hope that it brings more manufacturing back to the UK so that companies like So Systems can be around in Leicester for another 40 years and many more. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the day. Thank you.
So thank you, Nick from So Systems and Barry from Stretchline for those presentations. Really fascinating to hear all of that innovation and development and how important that is, innovation, collaboration, education to developing the circular economy. So the next part of the morning, we're coming back to the School of Fashion and Textiles and some of our colleagues within the school, Professor Jim Shen Song and Dr. Angela Davis, who are going to talk a little bit about their sustainable work in coloration and textile finishing.
Good morning. My name is Jin Song Shen. I got Angela Davis with me to present our research activity at our School of Fashion and Textiles.
Good morning, everybody.
Yeah, we will talk about sustainable technology for textile coloration and functionality. Next slide, please. Within our school, we have Textile Engineering and Material Research Group, we call TEAM, which was established in 1992. Now, currently, TEAM focuses on the research to develop environmental friendly textile processes, sustainable textile materials, and high performance textiles. Next slide, please. Here I show you our current research activity within our team. We work on biotechnology to develop enzyme-based coloration method for textiles, but without use of pre-manufactured synthetic dyes and chemical accessories, so which have the benefit of energy saving and the reduction of the waste effluent. Two enzymes we use in this method is the lacase and the peroxidase, which can catalyze chemical reaction to form the color on textiles and to achieve a wide range of the color. We also collaborate with Loughborough University to develop laser technology for textile surface coloration and patterning. One of the laser techniques is the laser-based dyeing process to produce photographic and color surface pattern on textile fabrics, but without use of printing screen and the printing paste. So it's very quick, short process. So saving water and also energy. Next slide, please. We have been working on bast fiber as sustainable textile materials for many years, especially on flax, hemp, and nettle fibers. So different quality of bast fiber can be used for different end uses. So high quality fiber for garment use and low quality fiber for composite materials. A team developing a cotton lining process for bast fibers. So the high quality bast fibers can blend with cotton for garment use. We're also developing Sogel technology for nano-layer surface coating on textile fabric to achieve multiple functional textile materials. For example, we are working on antimicrobial water repellent machine washable wool. So the benefit of Sogel technique is the reduction of chemical use on the fabric and also avoiding multiple coating, so and their conflicts. Next slide, please. Our team also involve other research activities, which including smart textiles with wearable technology, electroforming for metallized embellishment on textiles, which Joe presented earlier, and 3D print on textiles for textile surface design, and green antimicrobial, anti-mosquito repellent finishing, and also machine washable wool. Now I'll pass on to Angela for next slides.
Thank you, Jim. So I'm going to tell you a little bit now about some of our projects that some of our students have been doing. So we have a good relationship between teaching and industry and our research group. And we have an MSc, which is MSc in Textile Design, Technology and Innovation, which is a really effective channel at bridging the gap between those that have understood and that have been taught at undergraduate level, but then want to go on to research. So it's a very good approach for really excelling our technical textile students. So the course brings together design, technology and sustainable practices. And we have a lot of active projects that involve industry. So a few that we have undertaken recently over this last year are looking at sustainable sportswear, so thinking about alternatives to plastic textiles, so thinking about plastic-free, reducing plastic elements, and compostable textiles. We've also done quite a bit of work with a company where we're looking at wearable technology, so thinking about embedding wearable tech into textiles, thinking about the fit of a garment, the longevity of the garment, and how effective it will be with the electronic components attached. We've also done a lot of work in terms of looking at the effectiveness of finishes, so whether these be water repellent finishes, antibacterial, antiviral, and then thinking about the range of new and up and coming sustainable textiles, so looking at sustainable fibres and how effective some of these finishes are at working on those particular fabrics. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to finish now by just talking to you a little bit about our facilities. So we have a broad range of facilities here at De Montfort University. So we have facilities that look at textile dyeing, thinking about the finishing of materials, whether it be putting finishes on that are going to add to performance, whether it be antibacterial, antiviral finishes, and also printing facilities that we have available at the university as well. We are fortunate to have a large textile testing laboratory, some of which is air conditioned, so we can control the temperature and humidity of the lab, and we can carry out a broad range of testing within this environment as well. So whether that be wash testing or other launderability testing, thinking about weathering and colour fastness testing as well. So even things like colour fastness to light, we're able to undertake. We can look at the mechanical properties of textiles as well, so thinking about strength, abrasion resistance, pilling and snagging, looking at the performance of textiles, so whether this be waterproofness of the materials. We can look at the aesthetic properties, so whether this be drape, crease recovery, and really have a good look at the materials to see how good they look and feel. And then more importantly, we have safety testing. So we have flammability assessments that we're able to undertake on site, and also biological resistance. We're fortunate as well at the university to be able to work very closely with other departments. So we have a very close relationship with chemistry and microbiology, engineering and computing. So we're able to work together on cross-faculty projects, for example, looking at the effectiveness of antibacterial, antiviral, antimicrobial treatments. So this hopefully gives you a little bit of an overview in terms of team research, the types of projects we're working on, and the facilities we have available. More information about our research group will be provided after the presentation, so you'll be able to click on the web link and have a look at our team research website. And also for those of you wanting to find out more about our MSc, we'll be providing details about our MSc as well post the event. Thank you ever so much for listening today.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Alice. I'm the joint MA Digital Design Program Leader, and I'm also a graphic designer. I will be talking to you today about a new concept, or a relatively new concept, which has been popping up in the news lately more and more, which is greenwashing. I am a graphic designer by background and by trade, which means that I will be talking to you about this buzzword from a visual communication, marketing, communication point of view. Next slide, please. Now, one of the things that I wanted to start off by is by talking to you about what started this whole concept of greenwashing. Well, greenwashing has many interpretations in terms of how the industry, the fashion industry as well, but the industry in general is interpreting it. But in many cases, greenwashing is just a marketing spin, which basically means that companies or brands try to make their products or services look much more eco-friendly or sustainable than they actually are. One of the examples, as you can see on the slides, was, of course, a very big brand, which we all know. We came in contact with Coca-Cola when they introduced this new product, which was Coca-Cola Life. So what did they do? Next slide, please. Well, they used every trick in the book to make us believe that their new product was sustainable and was eco-friendly, starting from using a very nice scripted typography to using images of idyllic nature, using natural textures, as you can see on the slides. Of course, as consumers, we are also used and we associate sustainability and eco-friendliness with this color green. So they did that. They used 50 shades of green, as I call them. They desaturated the colors, and they tried to communicate with us that brands such as Coca-Cola can become sustainable and can be part of this, this new, at that time, 2-3 years ago, it was almost like a trendy thing. But as consumers, we didn't buy into this. We started questioning, and I think consumers are becoming more and more smart about what they see and what we can and what brands are communicating to them. So if we go to the next slide, we probably, or brands such as Coca-Cola probably created the perfect storm, because what did they want to do by putting in front of us a product or service offering that was sustainable, such as the Coca-Cola Life? Well, they called it sustainable. They created the perfect storm in many ways. They wanted to create a positive emotional engagement with us because they are sustainable, because it looked sustainable. They wanted to build a trusted relationship with us. And ultimately, they used this type of visuals to gain competitive advantage. But of course, because we started challenging what we see online, offline, in terms of marketing communications, they didn't necessarily gain that positive engagement. It led to negative emotional engagement. It led to mistrusting the brand, and ultimately it led to financial losses. So in this case, Coca-Cola, with their Coca-Cola Life spiel, they've lost quite a bit. It's one of the historical losses that the brand encountered. So what can we do in order to prevent this? And the reason I wanted to show you Coca-Cola Life is because it's a brand that we've all seen, but it's also a brand that is global. Everyone knows about them, and they still made this mistake, and they still managed to get themselves into trouble by being accused of greenwashing or trying to brainwash us by making us believe that they are sustainable. Next slide, please. So what can we do? As I said, well, one of the things that I would recommend, especially when it comes to talking about greenwashing and trying to avoid greenwashing, is to have a very honest and frank chat with your designers, with the marketing department, and try to avoid stock sustainability. That's how I call it. Stock sustainability in many cases is just visuals or a method of promoting an eco-friendly message by using visuals such as the ones you can see on the slides, the icons. Consumers are already trying to challenge those visuals. They don't know, or they no longer mean what they meant before. So try to avoid visuals that look like that. By doing so, you reduce the psychological distance between the consumers and what they see in front of you, and actually what they want. They want a better planet. We all want a better and more responsible future. And one of the biggest advices, that if it's possible for me to say, is to think about the fact that honesty doesn't have to look eco-friendly. So for example, if you take a look at my slides, I also used all the tricks in the book in order to make it look eco-friendly. I used the damaged looking typography, I used the green colors, I used the very organic looking texture, which perhaps communicated an eco-friendly message, but let's be honest, it's nothing eco-friendly about my presentation at this stage. There's nothing there. So I'm just trying to make you believe that it's eco-friendly, and that has to stop. I think as both academia and industry have to have this responsibility and try to reframe images that we've seen up until now. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Images such as this ones, where we know how a recycling bin should look like. The green, we can see the green again, we can see the recycling icon, but the reality of images that look like this, or how they are presented to us, is that the majority of our rubbish, which ends up in these bins, actually don't get recycled, they get into landfill. So let's just try to be a little bit more honest and try to see how we can reframe this whole approach to thinking about sustainability and eco-friendliness. Next slide, please. By trying to have visuals that look like this. Visuals of bins that show an exact image of where is our rubbish ending up. And in many cases, as I said, it will end up in the landfill. So next slide, please. So thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And if you have any questions, pop them in the chat, or you also have my email on the slides. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So great to hear those presentations from Jim and Angela and Alice, and again highlighting that importance of innovation and collaboration and research and the dangers of greenwashing that Paul talked about as well earlier this morning. So the next part of the session is to think about funding and harnessing those great ideas, and we have presenters from Innovate UK to talk about funding possibilities. So I'm really pleased to introduce online Julian Bowery and Kamran Hussain, who are going to give the next presentation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Carolyn, and good morning, everyone. It's been really fascinating to hear the different presentations, and I'm really pleased to be here because my daughter, more years ago than she cared to be reminded of, read retail fashion buying at DMU. So it's always been a institution dear to my heart. I'm the regional manager for Innovate UK. We're the UK's innovation agency. So what we do is we basically support businesses. Now, you will know us, hopefully, if you know us at all, as the nice institution that gives you grants to support your innovation. We're still going to do that, but we're much more than that. We're very much around providing you with business support and guidance, and also making connections between people who might be able to help your business innovate. So don't think of us solely as somewhere where you can go for money. We can provide you with a lot more as well as that. Next slide. So we're part of the innovation family. Cameron's going to talk a bit about the KTPs, which are part of the knowledge transfer network. We have Innovate Edge, which supports innovative and growing businesses. We also run the Catapult network, and probably some of you might well be interested in the manufacturing catapult or the digital catapults. Both of those are probably relevant to the businesses you're in. Our grant funding varies. We have an open competition, so any idea, but also if you're interested, for example, in circular economy, in Industry 4.0 and how you use data more effectively to drive improved manufacturing, net zero, use of virtual reality to promote your products and services, all of those things we're interested in. So we're not solely people who have white coats and PhDs and work in laboratories somewhere. We're very much trying to engage with businesses and the challenges you're facing, whether that's through the knowledge transfer network, providing those connections, Innovate Edge, providing business support, or the Catapult network, which does all of that, but also can provide some practical support as well. Next slide. But I couldn't leave you without talking about the money. So if you are interested in seeing what's available in terms of funding opportunities, go to our funding finder. So just put in either UKRI or gov.uk innovation grants, and you'll come to this landing page, our funding finder, and you can search on Innovate or any of the other research councils, and also you can sign up to email alerts. At any one time, we have the smart Smart Grants program, which as soon as one closes, another one opens, and that's available to all companies over all sectors of the economy. We also probably have 9 or 10 other more mission-focused competitions running around, as I say, things like the circular economy. 2 other schemes I'd particularly commend to you at the moment. We run a Women in Innovation program for women innovators, and also we run a Young Innovators program for young people under the age of 30 who have innovative businesses that we are delighted to support. So hopefully we provide a little bit of everything for everyone, whether you're looking for money or just looking for encouragement and some connections. And with that, I'll hand over to Cameron, who's going to talk to you about one of our most long-standing and most successful products. Thanks, Cameron.
Thanks, Julian. Next slide, please. Hi, I'm Cameron Hussain. I'm a knowledge transfer advisor with the KTN. At the KTN, we connect ideas, people, and communities that drive innovation for positive change. We're a team of 200 across the UK. We cover most sectors of national interest, and we mainly support UKRI and Innovate UK funded initiatives. For me, the most impactful initiative is KTP. Next slide, please. Now, I'm here to give you an innovation warning. The experts tell us that 90% of innovation fails to make it from idea to market. There's lots of reasons for this, but for me, the main ones are skills gaps, knowledge gaps, project management or time to project manage, delivering the wrong innovation. And once the budget's gone, it's gone. Next slide, please. Now, Lao Tzu tells us, if you teach a man to fish, he'll feed himself and his family for a lifetime. And that's what KTP's been doing for the last 50 years. We've been giving organizations the skills, the knowledge, the momentum to continuously drive innovation independently. At any one time, we'll have 800 and 850 projects active. We're sector agnostic, and the basic premise is a 3-way relationship, a 3-way partnership between a business that's horizon scoped. They see strategic opportunity in new business models, new products, new services. They recognize that they have a knowledge gap. They need to embed new knowledge into the business to overcome their barriers. And we do this through the support of academic rigor. And in doing that, it will build a capability into the business for continuous innovation, realizing that commercial value, developing value propositions that are attractive to the market. Now, we do this by tapping into the minds of our academics, our expert academics in our institutions like DMU, who have been researching, teaching, writing, lecturing, and presenting at conferences that one thing, if it could be embedded into your business, it would transform your business. Now, because they can't give you all their time in a project, and through the KTP mechanism, they will give you 10% of their time. And because you need somebody to actually embed it into your business in a way that works for your business, the university will go to market and they will hire a recent graduate, somebody who's suitably qualified from a bachelor's degree right all the way up to a PhD, somebody who's employed by the university but embedded into the business. And that person takes the bull by the horns of the project and basically embeds the knowledge transfer in a way that works for the project to realize that commercial value, to actually take it to commercialization. They build that innovation momentum, they manage all the stakeholders, and for them, it's excellent career development. In fact, in associates, in these graduates, I see future business leaders, and I constantly come across chief executives, I constantly come across managing directors and heads of technology who, when I speak to them, I found out they started their life as a KTP associate. 56% of associates will be retained by the business to continue the momentum of innovation beyond the KTP project. So KTPs are a great way to allow businesses to deliver new innovation, new business models, and new commercial value. Next slide, please. And that will be thank you. Back to studio.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thank you to Rihanna and her team at the University for inviting me along to today's event. I'll be giving you a brief overview about Innovate UK Edge and how we can support companies, but also about mapping your innovation projects. Next slide, please. Innovate UK Edge is a relatively new brand. We were rebranded in January this year from the Enterprise Europe network. As the name suggests, this is due to the Brexit transition, but Innovate UK Edge is one of the key business support providers alongside the knowledge transfer networks, and we are directly funded by Innovate UK Edge. We are here to directly support innovative UK SMEs, to help them exploit business innovation, to help them source funding and finance, and to also enter new markets. So the key focus area is to help innovative SMEs scale and grow their businesses. Next slide, please. Some of the key areas that we do this are around our bespoke coaching and mentoring program. So topics in this 5 or 7 day program can cover topics such as access to finance, global expansion, sales and marketing, strategy and growth, and building partnerships. And what we're here to do is to create measurable impacts for businesses, to help them bring new products to markets, to help them grow their turnover, profit, and as I said before, to grow and scale the business. Innovation, as we've seen this morning, there have been some really interesting projects that I've seen throughout the textile and fashion industry this morning, and certainly being from Leicester, that is a key focus area. As Julian alluded to, Innovate UK does provide a range of different funding solutions for businesses. What I want to give you is a bit of an overview of one of the tools that we actually use when working with our clients, when we are helping them to define and map their innovation projects. And also this tool can be used for funding applications, and most specifically the smart competition that Julian mentioned in the previous slides, which is the most popular open call for innovative SMEs, and this is available as a single entity competition. Next slide, please. So the Innovation Project Canvas tool, I use it on a regular basis, and I must say that when we're talking about inquiries from SMEs, that funding is top of the list at the moment, and certainly that probably even ramped up even more so through the COVID pandemic, and a lot of companies were trying to innovate their way out of problems that they might have been encountering. What you will see on the Innovation Project Canvas tool is a very important split between the different segments on there. So on the left-hand side is segments associated with innovation and the technical aspects of the project, and the right-hand 2/3 are focusing on the actual business case. As with private investments, you have to be looking at grant funding as from the point of view from a private investor as well. So you can not only look at the technical background to the project, but you have to be focusing on commercial potential as well. Because nowadays, the Innovate UK funders are really trying to make sure that the projects they fund are going to be creating measurable impact for the business and also for the UK economy, and provide great growth opportunities for all involved. So this is why, when you're using this Canvas tool, there is that different split. What I will say that between all the different segments on this tool, you should be using this as an initial mind map and a brainstorm tool for your innovation project. So it's purely to be putting down some key bullet points for each one of the different segments, but each segment is very, very important and needs to be covered off. And what you will actually see is that if you're putting in an application for the smart competition through Innovate UK, then each one of the segments on the Innovation Project Canvas tool actually aligns with a question from the smart competition. So Innovate UK did actually commission for this tool to be developed several years ago. It was developed by an organisation called Alger Future Business Centre. If you go on to Google and you search for Innovation Project Canvas, you will be able to find some templates and guidance notes associated. So there will be a further version of this that has every single prompt, so every single question that you should be answering to complete each one of the different segments. Some of the key segments on there, if we're talking about the innovation section, there's the risks associated with the project, intellectual property, unique features, the production process. If we just go over to the business case side, there's also the value proposition. So what is the market opportunity? Who are your customers going to be? The team associated with the project as well, because a lot of the time that Innovate UK funders will not only be looking at the technical capability of the project, but also the team and the resources behind it, and making sure that they have the right people in place to successfully exploit and commercialize the innovation as well. You will also need to be doing mapping exercises around competitor analysis, so who else is out in the marketplace, what is the current state of the art. Main reason being is because Innovate UK mainly fund novel step change innovation, so it has to be radical innovation and not incremental innovation, so a significant improvement on what is already out there in the marketplace. A couple of the other segments there on the business case, market potential and customer segments. The bottom two are absolutely key as well, because the left-hand side is around cost structure. So when you're applying for a set amount of funding from Innovate UK, you have to be able to provide a background as to where all of those funds are being spent. And then the right-hand side is around revenue streams. So you need to be clearly talking about your commercialization strategy. What is going to be your route to market? Are you going to be selling directly to consumers? Are you going to be licensing the tech? Are you going to be using agents, distributors and resellers? So you have to have the foresight to think about how you're going to be able to monetize your innovation, and even going so far as providing a 3 to 5 year growth plan associated with that innovation project. So as I mentioned, this is a brilliant tool. It can be applied to any kind of innovation project. If you're thinking of developing new products, processes, use this tool. It is great to have a go at just doing the initial mapping, and then you can provide a full detailed innovation plan spawning out from this information. But certainly this is a great tool that we use with the Innovate UK Edge coaching and mentoring service. As I said, it is bespoke, tailored coaching for businesses, and it can cover a wide range of different topics. As I said, funding is one of the main ones that we use, and this tool is very valuable in that process. So we can help companies to use this tool, and then also to help companies to actually develop a funding proposal. We cannot write it for you, but we can certainly handhold you along the way, and we know what the tips and tricks are associated with that and what the evaluator is looking for. So the service is completely free of charge. Please feel free to get in touch. Next slide, please. Here are my details, and thank you very much for the opportunity today.
Right, good afternoon, everyone. Oh, just going to get rid of that echo. Okay, right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this virtual fireside chat. You'll have to imagine there's a nice roaring fire behind us. We've seen lots of people's bedrooms and offices, but this is a virtual fireside chat. We've got some people that are joining us online, and we're going to be just talking about some of the innovation, the technologies, what retailers are looking for, and what our supply base is looking for, and how we can really sort of look towards grow the opportunity that this city has and this university in Leicester has. So I'd like to introduce and welcome some of the people that are online with us. So first of all, we've got Jenny Holloway from Fashion Enter. Jenny's there somewhere. Okay, I'll keep moving. We've also got Peter Chandler, who's from the Mayor's office. We have Paul. I can see Paul. Paul's back in the room. There's Peter.
Afternoon, everyone. All right.
And we should have Nick as well, if Nick's there as well.
Yep.
Now, we might not get round everyone because we've only got sort of 30-ish minutes, and we want to have a real kind of open discussion. We welcome your questions. If we can get to things, we will. If not, apologies. And maybe if there are any specifics, we could come back to those offline. So my name's Simon Platts. I'm the responsible sourcing director for ASOS.com. A lot of you guys probably know about us, but if you don't, we're an online, pure play online fashion retailer. We do source in Leicester, and my ambition is to continue to grow our sourcing with Leicester. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about, and how we can grow that opportunity as well. I've got alongside me here Gillian from the university. Gillian, is your title?
I'm the Associate Professor for Enterprise.
Associate, okay, nice. Sunny, who's actually works with ASOS. Sunny?
I'm Sunny Patel, and I'm a creative director at Meesha Graphics.
And that's a printer we use. And Mick Chima?
Hi, my name is Mick Chima. I'm from Basic Premier. I'm the general manager there. We make fashion clothing for ASOS.
Barry, we've heard from, but
yeah,
for those
so
that just
Barry
joined-
Head from Stretchline. I'm the sales and European sales and marketing director and head of global brands.
Cool. Now, I probably won't go around Paul and Nick, and I think Jenny's dropped off, and Peter, but we'll bring them into the conversation anyway. So, yeah, I wanted to talk about, initially kick this conversation off by talking about innovation and how we're going to change the way our industry works. Now, I know as a retailer that the opportunities for manufacturing in Leicester and in the UK are huge, but I know that we need to do it a certain way. And I'm not going to dwell on the negative sides of everything we hear about Leicester, because I can tell you that the negatives happen all over the world. And there are a hell of a lot of positives around what we can do in this city. And this is why I think the opportunities are phenomenal and fantastic. But we need to think differently. We're a fairly inefficient industry. And that's actually a negative, but something we can turn into a positive. Because if we can unlock those inefficiencies, we've got real opportunity to change what we do. That could be technical, it could be digital innovation, it could be investment that's needed, but it's all workable. And we've got to be able to do that and do it in a responsible way where that cares about the environment and also the people that are making the products that we want to produce. So we've got to join the dots. And that's kind of where I felt today was a great opportunity to join up with the uni, because the tech and the skill and the innovation and the knowledge, and you just heard the previous gentleman talk about the skill set that these young guys have got that they can bring into our industry. Because I'm not convinced that some of us guys that have been in it for a while are going to be able to solve this problem, thinking about solving the problem using the same mentality we use that kind of created the problem. So we need to think outside the box. Sorry to use that as a cliche, but we do need to think differently about how we're going to work and how we're going to invest in this business going forward. So these are some of the things we're going to talk about today. As I say, joining them dots, what can we do differently? How do we work from a social and environmentally responsible point of view? How do we change perception of what's going on in this city and prove that we've got amazing talent, amazing skills here at the university, and great manufacturers around this city as well, so that we make a showcase for other retailers, and not just retailers in this country, but other people that could invest in production in this city. We need to look at inefficiencies and make ourselves better, and future investments in digital and technology. And ultimately, we've got to do this within a circular model. And there was a great presentation I was listening to earlier about, I mean, circular has to be the way we're going to take this forward, because we've got, you know, we don't have infinite resource. There's a finite amount of resource that this planet has, and we need to be more responsible in terms of what we do with that. And circular is literally the only way that we can make sure that we're being efficient around what we take and what we put back in. And, you know, I'm exposed to lots of innovation on a daily basis, and it really excites me rather than frightens me what the future holds, because I know the opportunities to do things better are really, really out there. So a couple of things I was going to put. So first of all, I was going to go to Mick and just ask Mick about what you think we could do differently within our textiles industry, and how that could relate from a manufacturer's point of view, and also what you'd ask of the industry, and that could be the retailer or other people that are invested in our industry.
I mean, a big approach would be basically, the first thing would be to create a sustainably ethical business in Leicester. That is a challenge, and a part of that challenge is actually working with the customer to talk to their buyers and to put forward the fact that these are the costs, these are the ethical costs, right? And we need to fit our costs into that price. Mm-hmm. So it's a price negotiation. That's where it starts from. Transparency. So what we're doing now with yourselves is we're doing a transparent costing, so that we know that this is the labour cost, this is the fabric cost, this is the overhead cost, this is the margin we're working on. and this is what we can achieve. So that once we're showing a product, or we show a product to the customer, to the buyers, and basically we'll look at that product, and when we talk about costs, we talk about how to achieve a price that's workable for our customer and workable for us guys. We look at technically where can we produce that, how can we produce that garment, so that technically we can like remove stuff out of that garment that we don't necessarily need, and also we can work on different types of fabrics to reduce the fabric costings. Another good thing that's happened with the lockdown actually is that with Teams meetings, we do fits. We bring the model into our workplace, into our factory. We do the fits live with Teams, with the buyers, with the designers in London, right? And I'm sitting there as well. We're doing costings as well at the same time. Or if you alter that, yeah, we can achieve that price. That'll add that extra cost in, and my designers are there, my tech's there, and we say no, that's not really achievable. So there's a lot of more kind of heads looking at the whole process. Whereas before, it's a case of traveling to London, fitting a time in there, and then someone's somewhere else. No one gets together. So COVID has actually brought us all together to actually get that product right on point, so that basically we're all on the same page, and then we can move forward. It's allowed us to. The other thing about Leicester is that there's been a change in the topography of the business setups. So traditionally, whereas before there used to be design houses, the customer would go to a design house who would have like several factories that work with the design house. But that's not the case anymore. What's happened now is that the customer comes directly to the manufacturer. The manufacturer's got his own design in-house, it's got his own tech in-house, and that relationship builds up with the manufacturer. The capabilities of what that manufacturer can achieve are visible and transparent to the actual buyers themselves. So you build a good relationship up, and basically the other part is that the design house is basically when you're looking at margins, right? The design house is actually taking the margin, and then it's given out work to the factory, and that margin is actually not being passed on, right? But this way, if a customer actually comes directly to a manufacturer, that manufacturer's got the whole margin, and that basically achieves that ethical business model. That is the big issue in Leicester, right? So that working relationship is really important between customer and the manufacturer. So that's really important, and that's actually a thing that's actually happened over the last couple of years in Leicester. So those design houses that were design houses, and they are actually reinventing themselves as manufacturers as well to stay in the game. So things are moving really fast in Leicester. It's a really fast moving business environment. We're facing challenges on all kind of fronts. A challenge is trying to get the tech in now, because whereas before you'd only need like one set of tech in the design house, right? Now, and those techs are servicing, say, several factories. Now all those 7 factories need techs in-house. So that's where with De Montfort University, there's going to be, I can see going forward, there's going to be kind of a shortage of tech, i.e. designers, pattern cutters, sealer graders, fabric technologists. So it's really important that we've got De Montfort University here on our doorstep. And now the next challenge is how we're going to interact with the university and bring out those youngsters into the workplace, because there's a huge opportunity now in Leicester. With also the fact that the other big change that's happened now is that I've noticed over the last so many years is that the size of the order has been reduced. So fast fashion is regarded as a really kind of a dirty word, but it's not. Fast fashion, we're working with online retailers, so the size of the order is say about 400 or 500 units. Whereas if we're working with a bricks and mortar retailer, he's got something like 500 shops. The average size of the order would be like several thousand units. Now, those several thousand units, they're going to place an order. What actually is sold at full market price is only a small amount. And then basically you're discounting the rest of it. And then some of that's going to end up in landfill because it's been discounted at such a low value that the people that are actually buying that product in, they ain't going to give it that true value. They'll wear it a couple of times, they'll go into the bin. But what happens with online retail is that whatever's being purchased in, those 400 units, they are going to sell at that price that is actually being on the ticket. You know, things are not going to be discounted to the level. Things are not going to hit the land falls to the level that, you know, they're hitting that, you know, as they were before in the past. So so basically now what it is, we've got so many styles going through the business on a weekly basis. Our USP, our importance, our relevance as manufacturers in Leicester is that we can offer the public so many different styles, you know, so many different, we can put so many different fabrics in, we can alter the styles. You know, our USP, our relevance is that we want to do something new every single week, not just that one item, but a dozen items, if not more than that, you know, and put that spotlight onto us all the time. You know, Leicester needs that spotlight, not in the negative way, not, you know, it's not all about, you know, what's happened in the past is the past. You know, we're moving forward now, and you know, and there's a lot of challenges on the road that, you know, we're going to move forward along. So yeah,
you mentioned there a couple of words in investment, raising the profile. I think that's really important, but also joining the industry to the university, and I'll come to Jenny in a second just on the point of how we're going to reintroduce learning and get the skills that are needed back in so that we can diversify the product types. But Gillian, that got me onto that point. And how would you see our industry working closer together with the universities to make sure that the skills and the teachings that are being invested in here are what we need as an industry? And I think bringing these groups together is really important. But what's your kind of
I think we have two ways of looking at this. One is of London, Leicester is the second largest city in the UK that supports business startups. And our DMU Works, which is our student enterprise startup, is an award-winning event. So we have lots of graduates post-COVID, post-Brexit, who are going out into industry and starting a business. Likewise, we have alumni who, because of the changes due to COVID, have lost jobs at quite a high level. So I think we're going to see an outbreak of new business upstarts within the city. So DMU has 23,000 students, 1,300 of them are based in fashion textiles. The other way to look at this is we're working with the City Council on a 5-year plan to look at supporting startup within the city centre. We're looking at regeneration of a lot of the older buildings so that people can support. The other way we can work is we would encourage industry out there, and all of you sitting here, anyone who's been involved in the session today, to think about collaboration with the university. We can support you with KTPs, with consultancy, with projects, external client projects, competitions. Stretchline is one company who have supported us financially for many years, and quite often we can put a graduate in to work with you for weeks, for a year, for a long period of time. We can support any kind of industry startup, and there are innumerable ways in which we can put at your availability the fantastic facilities that you've all seen around the university today, and we'll have a tour of later.
Cool. Barry, just on that, Gillian just mentioned, obviously you've supported this, you've taken people from the university, it's helped you, it's helped your business. Could you give an example of, you know, to us that shown that model can work? Because I know it's something that often people are a bit kind of like, I'm not sure, you know, can we take
absolutely.
this on?
I mean, we've taken students, I think, for probably about the last 12 or 15 years. We started off with 2 students. We sent them to our factory in Sri Lanka, which is where our global R&D or R&I centre is. They normally do all our presentations for us. You know, basically, they go through the fashion trends and everything that's going forward in the colours that's going forward for that season, and they physically put the books together for us, so we can go out to all our customers and show the elastics in the colours, and they because we've got such a big team of guys in R&D anyway, they can actually get them to develop an elastic to a sort of trend that they foresee. Now, we can't always do it on our type of machinery. You know, woven and knitted machines, you can't do a lace sort of thing, but you can do versions of. And it's just a great help, because then when we go back to our customers, you're going in with something new from a student straight from university who's you know, about as high fashion as you're going to get. We do change them every 2 or 3 years. Quite often, as I mentioned in the presentation, they don't want to stay more than 2 years, especially if they go to Sri Lanka. 2 years, they're quite happy to leave after that. And it's probably better for them that they do, because then they can go into industry and actually start and design garments that's actually going to be sold.
Yeah.
Rather
If I
than
could
designing
interject
elastics.
here, we have worked, so Stretchline is a great example of a company who maybe have a new product they want to trial. So we all know how much that costs, product experimentation. So if a company will bring in a new material or a new yarn and say, okay, this is what we think it will do, you release that on a student project or a student competition. Before you know it, you've got 150 ideas that you've never even thought of, because student imagination is indefinite. And this is a really great way for local companies to engage with the university and to support the students, because we are developing the new generation of fashion and textiles for the city and for the industries both.
Yeah. That's a great example. I think it really shows the value and the worth of that investment. So yeah, that's great.
And then, obviously, from our point of view, every student that's probably on the course here is a potential customer to us. Anyway. Yeah, anyway. So and when they do go off, and and it's great for them because they can then visit all the and present to all the major retailers around the world. Excellent. And they get their name in there straight away. So it's win-win. It's a win-win situation for everybody.
Very good. Cool. Well, I'll come to Sunny in a sec. I wanted to talk about innovation and investment, because that's it's another big part, and that word investment, and that often does mean financial. But we've got Jenny and Carol and also Peter, I believe, here. So Peter from the Mayor's Office and Jenny from Fashion Entry, who's worked primarily as a factory and production in London, but can talk to investment both in production and capacity but also investment in people skills and learning. So before I come to Peter, where we can then perhaps talk about what Leicester's doing in that space, could I ask Jenny, do you want to chip in a little bit with your thoughts and some of the things that you've shown can work in your world?
Yes, thank you, Simon, and hello, everybody. Thanks for inviting us today. Yes, so we've actually set up the Fashion Technology Academy, which is a bona fide ESFA approved academy. And we were only ever interested in technical skills. I totally agree with what Mick was saying earlier about the gap is technical. There's so much creativity. There's some fantastic courses that are available, level 3 degree levels and above. But actually what we find is struggling for manufacturers generally is the level 1s, level 2s going on to level 3 and even level 5 bespoke apprenticeships. And I think it was because we had a factory, of which at that time 95% of them were all East European, we could see that there was a looming crisis on technical skills. So we do a level 1 and level 2, both in patterns and also in stitching, which actually we co-wrote with SEG, Skills Education Group. And that's exactly what we want to bring to Leicester. And particularly that garment technology role, Mick, you're so right on that. When you think about how important that role is as an interface between design and the factory, we've got to have talented people who can understand AQLs, first off the line reports, construction methods. Now, we find generally, and I'm not talking about DMU here, but we do have, as we have at the moment, we've got Graduate Fashion Week here, which is being sponsored by TikTok. And we've had to bring in 5 people.
Yeah, 2 pattern technicians and 3 sewing technicians, just to help them actually create
their
1
collections.
Or 2 garments.
So I think the gap is technical skills, and it's great that we'll be able to have real relationships with DMU. We can be a conduit, taking people on that will then go on to degree level. And it's thanks to Leicester City Council that we've been able to have the opportunity to open in Leicester.
There's probably a good opportunity to bring Peter in. We've always said that the innovation and the investment that's needed in Leicester needs support from, we've talked about local government, local council. I've had several meetings with Peter, with Adam, with not just Peter Chandler, but with the mayor as well, and talking about how we can change that perception, but also rejuvenate what we've got on our doorstep here in Leicestershire. Peter, do you just want to talk a little bit towards what you've been doing and what plans you've got from a council point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, thank you very much for asking me today. A really interesting discussion. And I mean, we've been many people on this call and in this session. We've been working together for quite a long time, and so I think it's important to say, I think we want to continue that working in partnership with everyone in this sector. As you said, Simon, none of us can do this alone. We get involved in quite a few different aspects of supporting the textile sector, actually. So firstly, to talk about the kind of, echo what Gillian's been talking about, the kind of design side, we're very front and center working with DMU and other partners around startup, as Gillian said, working with us on developing a long-term plan for that. And we also deliver a design season, which has been running for 3 years now, very much celebrating the local design sector, and work very closely with both, with DMU and with the University of Leicester on graduate retention programs as well. So very much see, the industry of the future being driven by that graduate talent coming out of the local universities. So I think there's lots more potential for us to do a lot more in that space. But we've been doing some good work with our partners in that sort of design side. But also on the skills side, I mean, I'm very pleased to see Jenny on the call with us. I mean, our primary intervention over recent years has been to bring forward the Fashion Technology Academy for the city. We think this is going to be an absolute game changer for the industry on a number of different levels. The City Council, what we've done with that, we've identified a site for a pilot. We're actually currently, investing in that site, and the refurbishment of that space is due to complete in a couple of weeks' time. And then Jenny is our industry partner to deliver what we think is going to be a world-class accredited training facility in the heart of Leicester's textile community. But I won't speak on behalf of Jenny, but of course what Jenny's all about is working in partnership as well, and we almost want to see this as being a platform for how we can collectively raise the game, support and profile what is excellent about Leicester's textile sector. I'm really interested in the discussion earlier on about innovation, actually, and it's not as a city council, we don't directly get involved in supporting the technical innovation. I was really pleased to hear Julian, Cameron and Chris talking earlier around Innovate UK. We are working with Jenny and also working with DMU around what can we do in this space to join up partners around innovation. We have access to grant funding, and we give lots of grants out to local businesses, and we'll continue to do so when we have that available. Innovate UK talking about the availability of grant funding as well, which is very much in that innovation space. But I think there's a big opportunity here for us to not only address skills, not only address graduate talent, but actually to really focus on this innovation. Because for me, I think the future of the industry, as you've said, isn't about the race to the bottom. As Mick's been talking about, isn't about fighting over low margins. It's all about how can the whole industry move up the value chain, deliver higher value products and services, add value to that, because actually that will be the future. That will be, I mean, you're the expert in this, Simon, in terms of the, from the retailer side, what does this industry need to deliver for you? And I think we've got an industry poised to really satisfy your requirements and for the industry's requirements. And I think we can only do that collectively, I think. So quite a few things that I've mentioned on, but I think you're very much welcome, this continuing joint work around this very important sector.
Thanks, Peter. And I know you've put a lot of time and effort and energy into this yourself, so thanks for that as well, Peter. And I'd love to see how, when we get this new facility, that we can join our supply base, the retailers, the manufacturers, and the university, because that I think would be a great opportunity for the people that are here at the uni, the students, to really see what is going on at the factory level and what are the issues, and therefore what will be the challenges and how can they solve them. I think utilising that skill set that you're going to have amongst your students and staff are just a massive opportunity. We talk about innovation and investment, and I know that from a retail point of view, that end game of only buying what you really know you're going to sell at the right price. Mick touched on it to a point with what online is around smaller volumes, but I'll bring in Sonny here because Sonny's working for a company called, and it's a partner in a company called Meesha Graphics, and we've worked with for many years, and has invested a lot over the time I've known Sonny in innovation, and it's cost investment. So it's machinery, it's digital, and that gets us to that point where actually, you know, we move away from a design it, manufacture it, try and sell it, to a design it, sell it, and then make it. So Sonny, just want to talk a little bit about what you've done in that space to really push that needle.
I mean, in the last 3 months, we've invested about £1.2 million in a new kind of state-of-the-art print-on-demand setup. Now, our field is slightly different from the traditional manufacturing field. Our field, we specialize in a product, you know, not to overcomplicate it, in the t-shirt, in printed products, in printed apparel. Now, we've seen kind of a gap in the market where people can produce thousands and hundreds of thousands of products, you know, and very often we chase volume because we think we're going to get the efficiency with the volume. But from an innovation perspective, from kind of, I think there's 3 facets to innovation. There's a creative innovation aspect, there is a commercial innovation aspect, and there is a sustainable innovation aspect. All 3 things must be combined when you're looking at investment. And those 3 innovation rules are really our rules in-house. So as I said, in the last 3 months, we've invested about £1.2 million, and that will enable us to design it, sell it, and ship it, you know, and that will, it's very different from the traditional retail model. You know, we should be able to ship directly to the customer. We should be able to control all the measures within that product as well, whether that's sourcing, you know, organic fabrics and sustainable fabrics, and then right the way through to the completion of the product where you're actually printing with water-based inks and sustainable inks. So that's really the direction that we see innovation is going. You know, you've got to look at the mindset of the new age customer, the millennials, and that's really the direction that they want to go in. At the end of the day, you know, we are in a very commercial world. We're in fashion, all of us in some aspect, because we're here to sell a product. Now, how we sell that product, whether it's more ethical, more sustainable, is they are all controllable variables. Now, with a print-on-demand model, it fits perfectly. I mean, together with ASOS, for example, we source t-shirts together as a partnership from various sourcing territories around the world. You know, we look at fabric consumption, we look at water consumption, we look at which fabrics are organic, recycled polyesters, all of these things. And when we kind of invest, we have to look at all of those aspects to ensure that we're giving our customer and also the retailer's customer the best possible output.
Cool. Thank you, Sonny. I was going to see if Paul, I know you talked a little bit earlier about what UKFT have been doing in this space, and I know there's a lot of innovation and a lot of investment. But Paul, did you want to sort of chip in on what you think about how this industry can work more collaboratively across retailers, suppliers, and universities and so on?
Thank you, Simon. Yes, absolutely. And I think one of the things that has struck me about today's conversations has been the emphasis on investment and innovation and skills. And I think that's absolutely the right way to go. Certainly from UKFT's point of view, the work that we're trying to do with government is encouraging government to understand that there is a need for a level playing field for UK manufacturers in particular. When we set up Let's Make It Here, which is our database of UK manufacturers, it was very much with the intention of giving designers, particularly London Fashion Week designers, somewhere that they could go to manufacture in the UK. So the move towards reshoring and nearshoring is very much generated by this need to manufacture closer to home, to bring down the number of SKUs, for example, and garments that are made. And it was, you know, the Portuguese at the moment are getting up to 300 per colour per style. But if you can do 50 per colour per style in Leicester, then that is very good for retailers, it's very good for designers. But I think one of the things that we continually bang our heads against the wall in, and Jenny and the other manufacturers will understand this, is they're making huge sacrifices and huge investments in innovation and skills. But that can be very easily undermined if goods are coming in following the cheapest goods are coming in from elsewhere. So in our conversations with government with regard to free trade agreements, we're talking very much about raising standards, as I think I said at the outset this morning, rather than the race to the bottom. We want to see a race to the top. And what I think the UK can do, and Leicester in particular can do, because Leicester is extremely well located geographically to do this, is to demonstrate to the UK and the rest of the world that you can actually build a modern, socially viable and sustainable textile industry in the UK, and that's certainly what we're trying to do.
And Nick, if I could come to you, Nick, one of the things I've been pushing for as a retailer from the UK, not specifically Leicester, but the UK, is the diversification of more product categories. You know, there is innovation, there is technical capability out there now. We could start producing denim back in this country and do it in a really clean and efficient way. We could start moving more into wovens. Now, I know that these are products that are generally more labor intensive, and when we're doing it the right way, paying the right wages, that is a cost. But if you're getting the right quantities, the right quality at the right time, it's about selling through and about having more of the right products selling at the right price at the right time. And I know that you know, during the COVID period have had to adapt. I just wonder whether you could share some of your experiences about how you've been able to pivot and adapt and change what you do so that you could stay fresh and relevant.
Well, I mean, a lot of the time we've been forced to adapt. So, for instance, when we set up the face mask factory, there was a need for that in the UK, and there was an opportunity for us to do it. But we've always tried to remain flexible as a company, and always look to welcome new opportunities. So we do an awful lot with startup companies who come and look for the technology that we can provide. But there is a huge gap in places for these kind of companies to go to, where they can have small quantity garments manufactured because of the cost, and a lot of companies aren't interested in that. So we do offer those skills, but there is a big gap in those skills as well. For instance, I think it would be great in Leicester if there was a hub somewhere where there was machinery where people could go and use that machinery as a startup company and learn about the technology and make small runs, make prototype garments, and actually understand it themselves. If they have to pay for an hourly rate to use that and have some technical support, then that would be a really useful, I think, stepping stone to create manufacturing and move on to the next level here in Leicester. And I think that there could be an opportunity for something like that.
So I think that's a really good call, and that's something that I know Jenny and the guys at Fashion Enter have actually implemented down there and could be put into the hub that's coming up here in Leicester as well. So I think that's a really good call. Well, listen, guys, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for everybody that's joined us on the panel that's in a virtual way. Thanks to everybody here. Thanks to everybody else who's contributed today to this event on behalf of the university. And I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. I know I certainly have, through sitting and listening to some of the conversation. Look forward to keeping these conversations alive. And yeah, I guess jumping on the bandwagon of everybody else, it's coming home.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon. That was brilliant. Very well chaired, and great to see academics and industry people in the same room talking together about really important issues. We've run over time, as we always do. There's been a huge amount of content. Thank you to everyone who's participated this morning. Special thanks to DMU for making it happen. I think it's been a great conversation. I'm sure there are going to be more follow-up events to this. And it only remains to me to say thank you to all of you for coming along today and participating, but also please do take a moment to stay online, because our friends at DMU have come up with the opportunity for you to look at the graduate fashion shows online. So I hope you will spare a few more minutes to have a look at those. But in the meantime, from us and from everybody, thank you all for attending, and keep on flying the flag for sustainability and ethical fashion and textiles.